and I'll be your moderator today for our webinar, Corporate Governance and Audit Committee Best Practices for Healthcare Organizations. Now, before I introduce our two presenters, I do have a few housekeeping items to review with you. First of all, we would love for you to submit questions throughout our presentation. You see before you the webinar pane, which you can use to enter your question. Just type it in, use the orange arrow to maximize or minimize the pane, type in your question, and hit send. And we will answer your questions as time permits at the end of our webinar today. Next, I want to make sure that you all have good quality sound and don't experience an echo. So if you are listening through your telephone, please click on the Use Telephone circle circled in blue. Otherwise, if you are listening through your computer, click on Use Mic and Speakers. We'd also like to make sure that you receive your CE certificate. So to qualify, you must use a personal computer, no PDAs, and log in with your own information and unique URL that you should have received by email when you registered. Be logged into our online software for at least 50 consecutive minutes within the scheduled time frame of the webinar from 10 to 11 a.m. this morning, and actively respond to at least 75% of the polling questions that we will ask you throughout the webinar. And finally, please complete the evaluation survey. Now I'm going to introduce our presenters. First, we have Brian Eisenberg. Brian is president of Eisenberg Consulting and has more than 25 years of experience in strategic planning, merger and acquisition, a variety. But today he's going to be sharing his experience serving as an interim CFO and working with audit committees on these issues that we're going to talk about today. Next, we have our presenter, Jackie Korajik, our audit manager with Armanino McKenna. Jackie has a strong background serving a variety of healthcare clients throughout California. And she has had her CPA since 2010, and she has worked very closely with audit committees and CFOs of a variety of healthcare organizations, helping them to go beyond the numbers and drive their strategic initiatives and meet these compliance regulations that we'll talk about today. Now, during today's webinar, you are going to learn a few things. We are going to recap the key governance and fiduciary responsibilities for management and board members. We're going to discuss audit committee requirements in California, discover common compliance pitfalls in audit committee requirements, and we will identify for you some best practices for audit committees in exercising your responsibilities. We've divided the presentation into two sections. Brian's going to talk about a recap of key governance and fiduciary responsibilities, and then we'll turn it over to Jackie, who will talk about things from the audit committee perspective. Now I'll turn it over to Brian. Thank you for being here, Brian.
Good morning, everyone. First, I'd like to thank Bill Browse, who's the partner in charge of the healthcare practice here at Armanino McKenna, and Crystal Peterson for inviting me to participate in this event on these very important subjects. And I will get right into this. Healthcare leaders and government officials, regulators, state and federal taxing authorities, bond underwriters, loan originators, and the Joint Commission and patient safety advocates are organizations that are all speaking out about the need for competent, engaged, committed trustees who will govern our healthcare organizations. They're looking for well-thought-out governance structures, effective governance processes, and measurable outcomes for these organizations. So getting into governance by the board of directors, let's look at what is governance. And in its simplest form, governance is the act of governing. And I realize that sounds like a very simple definition, but it's one of those concepts that will essentially take you a minute to learn, but a lifetime to grasp and understand how boards are actually practicing governance and what it takes to actually